Welcome. Russia, Ukraine, China, USA. The war that will dissolve the UN. It all started like as if the NATO and Russia had disputes over Ukraine, but it's all headed towards a bigger turn of events than expected. The United Nations will be dissolved. The war built up in the background, and everyone was certain that Russia was going to invade Ukraine. People were right, but did not know the full unveiling of what was going on. Now, there are more players into the game, and the outcomes will be far more than expected. There are going to be more turn of events that will take the world by surprise. As with any problem, there are solutions to the current crisis as well. Let's have a deeper look. The two regions of concern. Russia recognized Donetsk and Luhansk as independent nations in February, while Ukraine didn't. As of the end of February, Russian forces are inside these regions, and more is going on. One more region of concern is there, that is the Crimea. If you want to know the history of Ukraine, Russia, and Crimea, please do a web search. I'm trying to analyze the present and anticipate the future. The past is history. You can simply read about it. Why do people and countries dispute over territories? 1. Influence. 2. Security. 3. Income. There might be other reasons, but if you look closely, it's mostly these three. Are there benefits to Russia by receiving what it demands? Or, in other words, is there something more beneficial to Russia than it can focus on? What about Turkey, for instance? Will it benefit Russia if Russia either conquered or made allies with Turkey? Yes, it would. It would open up Russia into the Mediterranean Sea, which means Russia has more access to the European countries and to the Middle East. And what's in the Middle East and Europe that has much influence, security, and income concerns? Can you think about one nation or city that has much influence in the world, politics, and security? And can you name one structure or resource that can produce much income from this region? One estimate says that the minerals in the Dead Sea are worth 4 billion US dollars, but that's an estimate. There could be more. While there are visible plans to restore the Dead Sea from drying completely, there can also be plans to mine the minerals. What can become bigger news than anything else on the planet? Something about Jerusalem will always be bigger than something about any other place. The city seems like a control panel of influence and security. You trigger it and you really see the reactions everywhere. How do you get to Jerusalem? One way is to get through the Mediterranean Sea. With Israel being surrounded by not so friendly nations, anyone can have an easy access from the Mediterranean Sea to the city. and the Dead Sea. With Syria sitting right next to Israel and having connected to the Mediterranean Sea physically and with Russia politically, there is a way for Russia, really. Russia's move will be toward Jerusalem. At each step, Jerusalem will be the focus, but Russia will take any route to get there. But why is China clinging on to Russia in this? Do you know what China thinks and wants about Taiwan? If not, you should check it out. If China supports Russia in getting Russia's demands and recognizing Crimea as part of Russia, then it paves way for China to claim Taiwan as part of China and to bring it into China's authority. When there are difficulties or barriers to this plan, China will actively engage rather than just being a spectator. When will that happen? The current ceasefire and peace talks between Russia and Ukraine will fail. The first round of peace talks and ceasefire will fail. The war will continue further for about a week. Russia would have reached what it needs for the first phase and will come into place talks willingly, involving China and the US onto the talk table. I'm not sure how, but why is the most important question. China would want to take part in the control mechanism and the US would not want to lose it. In a peace talk table, Russia and Ukraine will come to a ceasefire and peace agreement within a few weeks. But during the process, many more nations would have involved in the dynamics, particularly Poland, Australia, India, and Japan would have been actively engaged with military furniture and opinion sharing. Even though Ukraine will stay at peace, the US and China would have engaged themselves strongly that they escalate tensions. I'm also speculating that China would have made the move to conquer Taiwan. In the escalation of events, I'm afraid that there will be nuclear exchange in between the US and China, weakening both nations. The escalation could build up for several days or weeks, but when the exchange happens, about 3 to 10 days will pass and a dozen of nuclear blasts could be expected. Unfortunately, if the exchange would target populated cities, then the death toll will be in millions. About 50 to 100 million lives will be lost. In about 10 days, as a result of the involvement of other countries, especially the European Union, the exchange will stop. But this time, the UN Security Council will have no say on anything because it would have become a much weaker and useless body. The UN Security Council will be dissolved first, and the entire world will look for some alternative mechanism for a nuclear free Earth because the UN without its Security Council is nothing. The last card of the UN, Agenda 21. All countries, particularly developing countries, alone or in regional or sub-regional groupings, should be given access to modern techniques of land resource management, such as geographical information systems, satellite photography imagery, and other remote sensing technologies. This is a phrase from the original UN Agenda 21. The UN has had plans since 1992 to distribute the world in 10 regional groupings, to make sure that there is sustainable development. And this is 30 years ago, and this is what's going to take shape. By the time the 10 regional arrangement happens, it would have been with climate based disasters, biological disasters, and economic disasters throughout the world. As many scholars have spectated, the European Union wouldn't become the next superpower, but instead, the US and China would have been reduced to not being superpowers. Russia, without a war, would be broken down with the regional arrangement. All regions will focus on sustainability, but it would have been too late, and there would be no UN by then. What could cause peace now? If Ukraine offers what Russia wants, that can stop the war immediately in the land of Ukraine. And what could prevent poverty now? Home based food production at every level of the society could prevent poverty. Big farms are not solutions, they are threats. The food production has to be decentralized, and traditional, non modified food products have to be cultivated to withstand and adapt to the climate change. Decentralizing the population would eliminate the death tolls in millions. The climate disasters will kill in millions. The biological disasters will kill in millions. But if the people are decentralized and not so densely populated, then the death tolls will be low. What could prevent economic disasters? Green and clean energy. Now, I'm not talking about megawatt windmills. I'm talking about solar panels, home based. Each building should be able to generate or accumulate the energy it needs, decentralize the energy needs and energy productions, and that will prevent economic collapse in the world. Or even if the economic had already collapsed, a decentralized, clean energy production can reinstate the world economy. All of this will happen in a matter of an year, not more. So get ready. If you and I are around after all of these, let's work on towards a better world. Thank you for listening.